SG Reads.
Hello fellow travelers, my name's SG, welcome to the channel. Today I want to do a kind of like rushed video, something kind of last minute on my end, mainly because I recently saw this in an article and just wanted to talk about it, and that being Paul Dini talking about the Arkham Knight series. Now, he was one of the main writers for the Arkham series, from Arkham Asylum all the way to Arkham City, but not Arkham Knight, revealing a lot about the story details in his point of view along the way with who was originally the Arkham Knight, and how a lot of the ideas really weren't developed as of just yet, but they knew they were going to do certain storylines in the main story. So, I want to talk about them, what the possibilities would have been, and exactly how it would have played out, as far as I understand, using the material that was said, the material that is in books, and at the same time, the material that was given. So, if you like this content, leave a like, comment, subscribe down below. If you don't like my opinion on the overall story or how the side missions would have gone, please leave it down in the comment section. I do think that this is a very interesting discussion to have, that I would have liked to see people, talk about more of what was a missed opportunity or what should have been more delved into along the way. But for right now, let's get started, shall we? Well, now that we're going to start with the main twist of the whole series, which was who is the Arkham Knight, and Paul Dini revealed, as officially in his version of the story, would have been Hush, aka Thomas Elliot, Bruce Wayne's childhood friend, who had gone to the deep ends of insanity when he decided that he didn't just want to have all the money Bruce Wayne did, but rather he wanted to have Bruce Wayne's life, have his whole identity, so much so that he grafted a face of Bruce Wayne onto his own, out of different people's faces that he has stolen parts of in Arkham City, claiming that he was doing this to achieve his rightful place as the Wayne fortune holder. Now, that would make sense and have more of an interesting twist than what we got with it being Jason Todd in the official game, because this would have been attacking Batman in two different directions. One was Scarecrow, the other being, like I said, Hush, Arkham Knight, attacking him from more of a Bruce Wayne aspect. That way we would have had this kind of duality in it, where Scarecrow is working with this character, the Arkham Knight, but doesn't really know what he's about, just knows that he knows who the Batman is behind the mask, while at the same time, he's going on full force with the idea of trying to destroy the Bat legacy himself, to where Thomas Elliot just wants to destroy the Bruce Wayne legacy and swoop in and take his place at the very end of the day. Now, why does it make sense that Thomas Elliot, aka Hush, would want to be Bruce Wayne and or Batman, and so much so that he would turn himself into the Arkham Knight? Well, that kind of fits in with his ideology. He's always believed in the comics that he was the true Bruce Wayne, that he was the one more deserving of it because he had to work for it. Because his parents were rich and saved by Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father, they ended up giving their entire fortune to the Wayne Foundation Children's Hospital and different hospitals along the way, so much so that they even named the entire Memorial Hospital the Thomas Elliot Sr. Memorial Hospital. Now, that left nothing for Thomas Elliot, whose parents told him that he had to earn it the hard way, his own way, and he did, becoming the world's greatest surgeon ever known, along with several other kind of doctorates along the way. But he never felt that that was fair. He felt that he deserved an easier life just because he had struggled a little more than Bruce Wayne, at least in his eyes. So with that being said, he blamed the Waynes for everything that had happened in his own life. So it makes sense that he would want not only the fortune, but at this point he thinks Bruce Wayne is living the leisure life along the way, and wanting to prove that he can be either the best Bruce Wayne he could possibly be. In the process, he ends up learning, within the 2 years between the two games, that Bruce Wayne is in fact Batman, studying him, matching him, being able to do almost every move Batman is capable of, but not quite right. He has to kind of adjust himself to where it has to be compensated using technology, using robotics, using machines, certain things that Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, would not do. And in his mind, Thomas Elliot's, this is proving that he's willing to go a step further, being the Batman willing to go a step further than the original ever could, meaning that he was superior in a way that Bruce Wayne could never be, being the one that could really help Gotham, being the vicious, one out there, scarier than any villain, hands down. So in retrospect, he's acting as if he is the true protector of the city, while at the same time proving that he is 10 times better than the original. And what better way to do that than take his place, be better at it than him, and along the way ruin his own reputation. Now, why would he want to ruin his own reputation? He wants to shatter Bruce Wayne's mentality. He doesn't want to ruin the reputation of Bruce Wayne. He wants to break Bruce Wayne just like the Scarecrow does. That way, it's a weird self-satisfaction in that sense. And with that, we would have seen a lot more of Bruce Wayne's personal people coming into this. Like Alfred being in danger. We would have seen references to Jason Todd, Barbara, Gordon. And we would have seen a lot of different things happening in the storyline. Again, going back to the theater, where we do see some concept art of Clayface attacking the theater, I believe that would have been where we would have seen 3 different characters than the ones we got with the 3 infected Jokers. And that would have been Jason Todd, Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, and a Joker. And them all end up being Clayface, going along with the Hush storyline, while at the same time giving it its own special twist, and at the same time having them all combined into a collective Clayface monster attacking the whole theater as a whole. Again, it makes sense and does add to the story. Again, this is just my speculation, but that's where I think the story would have gone, and how it would have ended, I think would have been very interesting, but we'll get to that at the very end. Next, let's talk about the side missions, shall we? Which are just as important as the main one. Now, the obvious answer to this would have been Jason Todd. Jason Todd would have definitely been a side mission in this storyline, mainly because there would have been so many references to him that it would have been impossible not to tell his story. And how I think that would have been halfway through the game. I think for the main storyline, we would have gotten a lieutenant that was similar to Jason Todd, constantly doing everything in the Arkham Knight's name, only to reveal halfway through the game, we would have been called back to the manor where there was a present left at the foot of the doorstep, and it would said, "To Batman." Now, we would have had a first-person perspective from Batman's point of view, going up to the steps of Wayne Manor, where he would have opened it, and it would have been a Jason Todd's Robin suit, all in tatters, suggesting that this next bit was going to be about Jason Todd. And I do believe these would have been the checkpoint missions. These would have been about taking out those checkpoints, but at the same time they would have been related to different Robins. One would have been at a circus, or would have had circus-like themes, referencing Dick Grayson. One would have been the alley where Jason Todd was found by Batman. And again, another one would have been the apartment that Tim Drake was living with his dad. Certain storylines like that would have been interesting and used as checkpoints, and would have made Batman realize overall that this was all relating back to him personally, or at least the Robins, ultimately leading to this whole Batmobile versus the Tumbler. And yes, I do say Tumbler because I would like to know that the Batmobile would have been more of a traditionally classic kind of Batmobile, more sleeker, moving faster, with a certain set of weapons attached to it. So that would have been kind of the idea, leading towards a car chase throughout Gotham City, ending up in a fist fight between him and Jason Todd, and ultimately them reconciling, leading to the very ending, which I said we'll get to the end of the video. Now, the Riddler storyline was a bit of a question, because we always knew Riddler was going to be a main part in the Arkham Knight game, because he was for the last 3 games. But I think that they should have taken it up a notch, making these more of death traps related to the Riddler. And I think that goes back to the pretty much Hush storyline where Riddler is dying. In this one, he would have had cancer, just like he did in the books. After all these years of dealing with Batman and coming up with his own agony, he finally realized that he was reaching the end of his line, that this was the end for him, and so he wanted to make this one count. So we could also say that the reason these tracks are going underground is because he's also secretly hoping Batman finds the Lazarus Pit, a way to revive himself or at least cure what's killing him in the process. That's why these kind of tracks keep going more and more down into the earth. He's been looking for them forever and is hoping that Batman will help him in this. But at the end of the day, he doesn't, and ends up getting imprisoned and at the same time maybe Batman even promises to try to help him along the way. But Riddler will not accept that, considering that it is a form of accepting a loss in his eyes. So whether he likes it or not, Batman's going to help him, and it's a lose situation for him. Two-Face, I think, would have gotten more screen time in this one. Going back to the Long Halloween storyline, I think this would have related to him more, mixing the animated series with the Long Halloween, where a bunch of people are missing and we have to use detective mode at certain locations where they are either being assassinated or they are either, like I said, missing before. And this all relates later on to us finding out that these were all related to Harvey Dent, where it turns out that they have all either been people that Harvey Dent has defended or have been against, and that he is finally striking back. But we then go to a location that's similar to the Long Halloween, the house where Harvey Dent and his wife lived, and we find that he is searching for something, found something there, only be caught in a trap himself, haunted by a character known as the Judge. At the very end, we finally get to the main boss, either this being Amarone or either Alberto Falcone, one of the last people that was either the worst for Harvey Dent to defend or was the one that he wished he could have gotten. Either way, I think at the end it would have been revealed that the Judge was in fact Harvey Dent. He had decided to flip one last time to decide who would win, Harvey Dent or Two-Face. Two-Face won, but Two-Face needed a mission now, and he flipped for that. And that was the one where they kind of mixed their personalities together, creating a third one, just like in the animated series, the Judge himself, where he was finally going to be enacting. Mainly because this is where the Arkham Knight and Scarecrow said that this was going to be the end of everything. So Harvey Dent, realizing this may be a very serious situation, decides that this is where he would take his leap, as the final pinnacle of trying to be Harvey Dent once more. Another one I believe would have happened was Penguin's storyline would have pretty much been the same, with Batman and Nightwing tracking down these weapon caches that they were going to try to put an end to. But I would have put a bit of a twist on it, that halfway through this mission or these side quests, something's happening. Suddenly these warehouses are being torn apart by a mysterious creature. We don't know why, we don't know how, but they're being torn apart as if somebody's looking for something. And now Penguin's henchmen are starting to get worried. Rumors of a zombie just coming out and attacking people from the ground is becoming a big place in myth for them. Penguin not believing it, but at the same time being scared, thinking that it might be Batman or something worse coming after him, is running. And at the end of the day, us as Batman have to defend the Penguin from Solomon Grundy. And it would have been revealed here that Grundy, when he was alive, had a kind of hash out something with Penguin's father, who was also a weapons dealer at the time, who had killed Grundy in the past. So that would have also done a bit of a side mission from the original Arkham series, or Arkham City if you will, and kind of get revenge for trapping Grundy beneath the museum during Arkham City. So I do believe that's kind of a going around situation, where we ultimately would have defeated Grundy, but we wouldn't know the fate of Penguin, whether Grundy took him with him, or we would have just arrested him. But either way, it would have been a fun kind of storyline where Penguin is on the fearful side of it all. Harley Quinn, I think, would have had a bigger arc in the main storyline than a side quest, but I could definitely see her acting as kind of the lead henchman to Scarecrow, because in this one Paul Dini revealed that she would have been pregnant and she would have had a baby at this point, because Harley's Revenge, the DLC from Arkham City, was not his. It was Bruce Timm's and someone on the production company. So in his eyes it would have been a story going straight forward. So for the most part I would have to say that Scarecrow has Harley Quinn's daughter, because yes, I do think it was a daughter, and would be threatening her that if she didn't follow her directions, something bad would have happened. Now, in this scenario, she would have become a henchman to him, but kind of begrudgingly doing so. Kind of having this chip on her shoulder. She doesn't like Batman after what happened with Joker, but kind of understands that it wasn't his fault at the end of the day. and even having a daughter has opened her eyes to really the evils that she had been committing all this time along with the Joker, turning her more into an anti-hero as the game goes on. And ultimately, I think at the end we would have seen her kind of flipping the script. She would have joined Batman's group at the very end of it all. But that's just how I would have seen how her storyline would have gone, and eventually leading to her having her own game set in the Arkham universe, as either a hero or maybe anti-hero. Who knows? ManBat would have relatively stayed the same, mainly because there's not really much you can change. The one thing I would have said though was that it does relate back to the main storyline, where maybe the Arkham Knight has been taking the genetic mutations of the ManBat's, structure to create a group of soldiers that were willing to do what he said. Kind of a dark reflection of Batman in a way to mess with him. They would have definitely been kind of like what we see with the Blade users in the original Batman Arkham Asylum games, and at the same time maybe been able to sniff out when you're on the gargoyles during the silence missions. So, or the shadow missions, if you will. So that would have definitely been a take on it, and the way to cure them ultimately would have been up to us to capture Langstrom and find the cure using his DNA, and ultimately curing him, in turn curing everyone that has been affected with the ManBat serum. Azrael would have been his own storyline, his own thing going on, I think, at the end of the day. Him going with the Court of Dumas, or being with the followers of Dumas, I think he would have started a war with the Court of Owls. Kind of like a holy war going on behind the scenes, where we would have seen them trying to take out the Batman or the Arkham Knight in a way that kind of fit their original program, that being the Court of Owls. But Azrael, in both being on the side of Batman and kind of being with the Dumas, would have been trying to fend them off as best as he could, thereby adding this ninja-like group known as the Talons into the whole mix. Maybe they made a deal with the Arkham Knight, we won't know, but it definitely feels like a possibility that that's where his storyline would have ended, with him leading a charge against the Court of Owls. Anarchy, I feel, was supposed to be an important character because there are so many mentions of him in the story. But for the most part, I would have to say that his storyline would have gone with Reverend Blackfire. That he has started a cult of these anarchists, where they are trying to cause as much havoc and mayhem under the orders of Scarecrow and the Arkham Knight, mainly because that's what they live for, that's what they do. Capturing as many as they can, end up capturing Jack Ryder and maybe even Vicky Vale, depending on if she was in the story, in this version at least, because we know she wasn't really in the canon storyline. So that's where this would have gone, where we would have seen him more, and how far he would have divulged into this version of Anarchy, this rhetoric spouting version of himself, where he is just full-on anti-system, anti-Batman, anti-rich, everything like that. That he was just the extreme version of it all. And it would have been interesting to see it take more of that turn, and I could definitely tell that that was kind of the idea for Reverend Blackfire. That they wanted to go that direction, but only used him for a 30-minute segment, and that was more of just a one fight kind of thing anyway. But it would have been interesting to see if we would have taken more of a mix of the Firefly and Reverend Blackfire mix kind of storyline, where you have to stop them from fighting at different locations and maybe save some hostages along the way. So that's pretty much where the Anarchy storyline would have gone, in my opinion, overall. Now, like I said, all of this is building up to a storyline, and that being that in every side quest, a character would have been introduced, or at least been implemented. A member from the Bat family. Like I said, Jason Todd would have ultimately switched sides and joined Batman after kind of this heartfelt fight and meeting together. Catwoman would have been saved in the Riddler fight. Tim Drake would have been helping find Twoface. Nightwing would have been the one trying to stop Penguin and ultimately saving him from Grundy. Harley Quinn would have switched sides and ended up being kind of a reluctant partner. ManBat Nothing really you can do with ManBat. He was just a side quest anyway. Oracle would have been helping fight the Court of Owls along with Azrael, trying to find locations that they have been known for. And Jim Gordon and the GCPD would have been help stopping Anarchy. All of this would have built up towards the end, where they would have had this big climactic ending against the Arkham Knight and ultimately the Scarecrows, where we would have seen them all working together using their strong bonds they had during the side quests, and it would have depended if you beat all the side quests before the main climax of the game, saying maybe you didn't complete the Jason Todd one, Jason Todd won't be there. Or maybe you didn't do the Riddler one, so Catwoman's not there. You know, certain things like that would have really added to the overall story, saying that everything you did meant something at the end of the day. So it would have been an interesting take, and I do think that a lot of it would have come into play at the very end of the story, because we do get that small clip in the trailer of Tim Drake, Nightwing, and Batman working together, and I do feel that would have been the ultimate end goal for it all leading to the main point of the game itself, which I'll talk about right now. Now, the majority of Scarecrow's storyline would have been the same, trying to break him mentally, while at the same time Hush was trying to break his will. And I think they would have gotten very close. But I think ultimately it would have been Batman realizing that it was more than just tragedy and more than just who he was that helped build the Batman icon. It would have been about the people he saved, about Gotham, about the people that he has made connections with and that have helped him grow along the way as well. Where it would have been about this whole factor about leaving the past behind. And maybe even at the end retiring as Batman, as much as we see at the end. I don't think they would have done this big reveal at the very end to the world that he was Bruce Wayne. I think that would have been set up, but ultimately have been stopped, either by Tim Drake or by Jason Todd. I'm going to go more with Tim Drake, considering he's been more of the techno one in the past. So I think it would have ended with this idea of Batman fighting the Arkham Knight, kind of this crazed, more intense version of himself, seeing a dark reflection of himself at the end of the day, and ultimately beating him, claiming that he was going to reveal to the world that he was Bruce Wayne himself. And Batman ultimately saying he didn't care. It's the Batman that matters to the people. Bruce Wayne will always be the secondary figure in this whole situation. But ultimately, it would have been this whole identity crisis and overcoming one's own faults. And this would have been shaken because of the Joker incident in Arkham City. He didn't save Joker. He didn't save a lot of people there. And he lost a lot with Talia and other people. So I think he would have been feeling his kind of foundation was shaken. And we see that with the Harley Quinn DLC, that we do get that he's kind of pulling away from people. That he hasn't really been talking to anybody besides Alfred. And even Oracle kind of hints at that in the main storyline as well. So I think that that being the main story, learning to accept help from everyone around him, and at the same time learning that Batman's not forever, but the legacy is, would have ultimately been the main point of the story. Do I think that Bruce Wayne probably would have retired as Batman at the end of this? Yeah, probably. He probably would have figured that this was the end for the whole matter. That this was the ending of it all. That now that this does feel like a conclusion for him. Now, the idea that he was feeling that this was going to be the death of him is definitely still a factor in this. I do think that he knew that Hush was Batman and that it was going to be revealed at the end of the day. But it didn't work that way, and I do think that that is some wiggle room to work around. Like I said, we still don't know much about the official Paul Dini ending, but I do feel that that would have probably been the main storyline overall. Because this was meant to be the end of the Arkham series, but not the end of the Arkham universe. There was a lot more that was going to come later on, just as a Justice League game, a Superman game, Suicide Squad games, stuff like that. So to end Batman there would have been a little too premature, but ending the storylines as far as we could would have probably been the best option in this matter. Alright, that's my opinion on what would have been Paul Dini's Arkham Knight. Now, I know that a lot of it's not perfect. I do think that I did draw some good points, but I can be one to understand that not everything fits as perfectly as I would have liked it. But if you got an opinion, please leave it down in the comment section. I would really like this to be a discussion overall. This is just my opinion. If you don't like it, that's fine. I get it. Like I said, there are some holes in there, but it is what it is. I would like to hear all your opinions, though. I would like to see how you would have either filled in the gaps I have, or either just altering it altogether. Would you have left some characters out, let them in, or have changed the storyline all on its own? Let me know. I'd really like to know. Thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you like this content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe down below. It really helped me out. And see you guys next time. Have a great one.